The Trader Cobb Crypto Show, talking business in blockchain.
Welcome. Craig Cobb, Rhys and Lou. This is another edition of our Traders Chat where we just get together and have a bit of a chinwag about what's going on in the market. So thanks for being here, boys.
No, thank you. Thanks again.
Thanks, mate. Always look forward to it.
Yeah, look, what we're going to do today in this particular chat is we're going to talk about, well, we can't really avoid it, everything that's going on with Binance. Of course, FTX and Sam testified, I think it was today or last night at my time. And also some of the figures that have come out recently regarding inflation and obviously what it's done to Bitcoin and our market. So I think, what do you reckon, guys? Let's talk about first and foremost Binance, because, geez, there's been a fair bit of back and forth going on regarding Binance. You know, one of the things that has come to air since FTX is trust and the importance of trust. And the importance of trust comes through being truthful, right? And there's been some pretty scathing things coming out about what Binance has put out there. What are you know, where are you guys with that sort of stuff at the moment? I've got a few articles that I've read. What do you guys think of Binance at the moment? Is it something that scared the absolute bejesus out of you, or you're okay? What do you reckon, Lou?
Oh, look, when I heard it, so after FTX, I lost a lot of capital in FTX, like all of us did here. So like when I jumped on Binance, I started trading on Binance. I was like, look, if I get the slightest whiff that something is untoward with Binance, I'm going to take all mine off. That's just a decision I made a month ago. And so had a whitelisted address on my account, to the ledger, and wait for it to all blow over, which it appears it's all blowing over now.
Yeah, I did the same thing. As soon as I got caught wind of it, it was like all my funds straight off Binance onto a ledger, nice and safe. I do not want to experience
no second thoughts
ever again. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, the problem with Twitter is that fake news can spread just as fast as real news. So, you know, we just don't really know. But then, you know, some news articles came out on Cointelegraph and a few other, you know, other media websites, and just reading through those, yeah, it seems just a little bit sketchy.
Well, with regards to fake news, I mean, the thing is as well is that, you know, we're only going back, I don't know, was it 9-10 weeks now with the same thing with FTX. You know, there was all that FUD, which wasn't FUD, about FTX not being solvent. It broke as an article. I can't remember who broke the article, but a deep dive into FTX assets showing that most of what they were garnering as their, you know, assets were illiquid, and they couldn't actually access that money anyway. So then, you know, Sam came out and said, "Oh, we're 1-to-1, no problem. We don't use our clients' funds," all this sort of stuff. And of course, we found that to be not true. So it's definitely sent a huge shockwave through the market and massive amounts of lost trust. But I mean, when we look, I read through some of the transcripts from the hearing today, and plus a lot of, you know, he's been out there wildly tweeting and he's been doing talks and whatnot. And I mean, there's two scenarios here. Sam's an absolute liar, which is very possible, and that he did know what was going on, or Caroline, whatever her surname is, she threw him under a bus, because if he didn't know this was happening, it's still his fault, by the way. I'm not taking any of the blame away from him. He needs to know what's going on. But he's kind of saying, look, I didn't know, and as far as I was aware, and all this sort of stuff. But it doesn't take away from the fact that, you know, the financials that were leaked in that article showing that the reserves that they were, you know, I guess getting their money from or lending against or, you know, putting up as reserves was totally illiquid. And that, how could he not know that? I mean, he runs a freaking exchange, one of the largest in the world. The whole, I just didn't know.
The second largest in the world. The second, not just like any exchange. It was the second largest in the world, FTX.
Complete
volume,
irresponsible behavior. So he's hopefully going to suffer what he needs to, and it, you know, when you do the wrong thing, and you affect, because look, really sadly, there will be suicides off the back of what's happened here with FTX. I'm sure it's already happened for many people. There'll be a lot of extreme hurt and pain. And look, if anyone does need any help, by the way, please contact, you know, if this is triggering or whatever, do get in contact with Lifeline or whoever it is in your region to have a chat with somebody, speak to your friends, your mates. You know, don't just hold it in. If this is, you know, triggering you, please do take, you know, decisive action and speak to some people. I know it's hard at times, but please do that. Life is good. It's just money. But he needs to suffer for that, because whether he was thrown under the bus or not, at the end of the day, he should have been driving that bus. So he should have been able to put the brakes on a lot earlier to save all the passengers that were on board. As it turns out, the bus has rolled, the passengers are still inside, and they can't get out because we don't really know what's going on completely, because the Chapter 11 hasn't been concluded, nor has any of the other jurisdictions in different parts of the world, for the most part, to my knowing. So the whole poor me, I'm not buying an ounce of that. Bullshit.
And I must say, sorry, just quickly, Rhys, like just the way, like how, so like when all these withdrawals were going on with FTX, Sam was silent. Like there was no communication at all, and it was an absolute shit fight. Now, you see what's going on with Binance and the CEO of Binance, CZ, like I'm just looking at kind of his Twitter now, and they've had 1.14 billion in withdrawals, and he said, "Oh, we've seen this before. Some days we have net withdrawals, some days we have net deposits. Business as usual. It's good to stress test withdrawals on each exchange on a rotating basis. Clear communication with clients." Like it's I guess if you compare the two, like it's different. I feel like it's a different feel. This guy's communicating clearly what's going on.
Yeah, but how do we trust him? And let's go to this audit, right? This audit, this internal audit. And they said they've got proof of reserves. They've got one-to-one. Like if I put a Bitcoin onto platform, then Binance has that Bitcoin as well. Something along those lines, which is one-to-one. And they've got their own Binance reserves as well. And then they've got this, what's it called? The SAFU fund, right? So I'll read this. What this means in actual terms is that Binance holds all user assets one-to-one, as well as some reserves. We have zero debt in our capital structure, and we have made sure that we have an emergency fund, the SAFU fund, for extreme cases. I'm a little bit confused here, because if it's all kosher at one-to-one, then why does there need to be a fund in the first place? That's the thing that makes my head scratch. Is that purely a PR stunt? Or is that something that, I don't know, it doesn't stack up for me why they would need that. I mean, I don't think that's the way that it needs to operate if they are completely one-to-one. The second thing as well, sorry, I'll leave it at that. What are your thoughts on that? Because why do you need to have a backup fund if everything is completely sweet at one-to-one? Why do we need that? Is it PR or is it required, you know?
Yeah, no idea. Like I'm sure an exchange is a super, super complex organization, and I don't think we'll ever fully know what happens behind the doors. But yeah, it seems a little bit suspicious, doesn't it?
Well, with the SAFU fund though, you got to remember, like, also I only know a little bit about this. Like, they put that fund, let's say, into existence not this year, not last year, but possibly back in 2018 or 2019. So don't quote me on that. And it was put in this insurance fund was put in place in case Binance suffered a hack and they weren't able to cover those deposits, so they could dip into that fund and replace those deposits that were hacked by that fund. That's why that fund was originally set up.
Yeah, okay. Well, that makes a bit more sense for the hacking, and they have had to use it. I think that's a 55 million hack back in, it might have been 19. The other interesting thing that I see from this internal audit, and I'll read a couple of points here, is that so it was from Mazars, which is kind of a mid-tier auditing firm, right? Mazars said it performed its work using agreed upon procedures requested by Binance, and that we make no representation regarding the appropriateness of the procedures. That doesn't sound to me like the conditions for a full and unbiased audit. Essentially what I'm reading, and don't forget, I'm not trying to slander anybody here. I'm reading this as an individual who trades with Binance. Not very often, but I've got funds on Binance just because I like to trade futures and there ain't much good there in my experience, and it's just too complicated. But why not have a completely, he's out there on Twitter saying transparency, transparency, transparency. Then he's setting the terms for which an audit can be provided, where the auditor itself has actually said, we're not saying anything about how appropriate this is. We're washing our hands of that. They asked us to do a certain task. This was a certain task. They haven't necessarily, excuse me, they haven't come out and necessarily said this is a full audit process. They've said within the agreed upon procedures by Binance. The other thing I find frustrating is that it's like he keeps going back to compare this to FTX, almost like sort of saying, yeah, sure, that you got eaten by a great white shark, but you could only lose your leg here. It's still bad. It's for them to say we need transparency and then to not provide it. I mean, his quote is, it's important for us to show users that the coffers are not bare, like at FTX. That's what Patrick Hillman said, who's the chief strategy officer. So don't compare yourself to FTX, please. We know how bad that was. We're not looking for the less bad option. We're looking for an honest, trustworthy option. And the comparisons consistently made to, beating down Sam and FTX. We already know how bad they are. We're asking you to show us something that we can be faithful, we can give faith to and trade with you. So there's so many red flags that I'm seeing in this whole audit that it's not an audit. An audit is where there's open transparency to accounts, debts, liabilities, and whatnot, running costs, all that. This audit is not that. It's almost as if, and it started off with the whole proof of reserves thing, which is kind of like a trust me, bro. Look, we've got this many Bitcoin. That's great, but how many do you owe? Where's your debt? I would say that Binance is completely missing the mark on this one. They've had an opportunity. Perhaps they've rushed it. That could be the outcome. But for me, I'm not saying that Binance is insolvent or anything crazy like that. I'm just saying that based on the factor of gaining trust, they are really dropping the ball here. That's my opinion.
I'm going to be honest. I stopped reading after I read that Mazar conducted the audit on agreed upon terms. I thought, if I'm selling a house, am I going to get my buddy to come in and do the building inspection on the things that I choose to be inspected for their structural integrity? Just do the walls and do the doors. Don't look at the slab, don't look at the roof, and then go and sell that house and expect someone to buy it. It's like ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous.
And also the thing that I noticed straight away was, what company of this size doesn't have any they say they have no debt. How can you not have any debt? You can't just come out and say, did they mention that?
Yeah. Yeah. So in the article that I read, it was, they definitely do have liabilities. I'm just trying to find the exact numbers. About 500, almost 600,000 Bitcoin worth of liabilities, and then just under that in assets. So they had more worth of liabilities than what they did assets. But CZ came out and said that didn't take into account the amount that was lended out through margin loans and their lending program. And if they did take that into account, it would be 101% collateralized.
So it's 97% to 101%.
Yeah, again, it's just, trust me, bro.
Yeah. The other thing is and this is coming back to, Twitter's a great place for some things. It's a cesspit for other things, but it's a great place as well for being held accountable. Now, if you recall, Binance, what did he say? He said, if an exchange have to move large amounts of crypto before or after they demonstrate their wallet addresses It is a clear sign of problems. Stay away, stay SAFU, right? Now, let's not forget that Binance Binance moved 2.7 billion out of its proof of reserves wallet. The exchange responded saying the move was to a TRX cold wallet. The procedure was even more bizarre because it comes off the heels of the contradictory statement that CZ made about moving funds around. So he's effectively come in. And said, if anyone does this, it's a massive red flag. Stay safe. Oh, I've just done this. Yeah, but it's okay because of this reason. It's like, hang on, mate. You moved 127,000 Bitcoins from your reserve address to somewhere. It's a Tron address, but that wasn't listed. He really is. He seems to be a bit flustered right now because he's not thinking through. He just doesn't seem to be doing what he says he will do. That's my concern. And the fact that we're sitting here in a relatively frustrated and confused state. Now, frustration and confusion is uncertainty. We know what uncertainty does to markets as traders. When markets are uncertain, irrational things happen. Markets plummet. That's what happens. Or they go sideways. It is under no circumstance is a non-trusted market, or sorry, not non-trusted, a market that is, a bit worried. Under no circumstances that lead to a good outcome. The whole point of what CZ is trying to achieve here is that he's trying to show that we are trusted, we are safe, we are good. Now, he is absolutely the number one exchange out there on the planet, pretty much always has been, aside from Mt. Gox. But he's really going about the clarity of messaging in a very, very wrong way, considering that most of the people that are involved with the asset class and his exchange are people like you and me, or people that are less educated in these matters. This is confusing. He's throwing more confusion, more uncertainty into the market, and that's what we saw 1.27 billion of withdrawals out of Binance. I think he's stoking the fire accidentally because he's got himself in hot water because he's saying things flippantly and not able to back that up.
I think that quote from Warren Buffett about how what is it? A rising tide rises all boats, but when the tide goes out, it reveals those who are swimming naked.
Yeah,
something like that. It really feels like CZ is swimming with a nice little bikini on at the moment. Not fully naked, but we're starting to see things that we probably don't want to see, and he doesn't want us to see.
Yeah, and they've kind of done it to themselves. Let's be honest. Like, if he wasn't calling for all this transparency and everything, which is good, which is what we should have, they've dug themselves into they've dug their own hole.
Yep. Yeah, you can't be making all these claims and being the king and all that sort of stuff without showing that you can be. If everything was, and again, coming back to saying that I'm not suggesting that Binance is going to go down. If it goes down, well, see you later. You know what I mean? Like, see you later, crypto industry. Bitcoin is still Bitcoin. It will just set us back a long way. And that's something else to know. Bitcoin hasn't done anything wrong here. It's centralized heads that have, and these exchanges for the most part. And obviously there's a lot of pump and dump type stuff. There's a lot of crap in there. But Bitcoin rises above, and the Bitcoin maxis are laughing their way not to the bank because it's got down so much, but there's a lot of I told you so type stuff. And perhaps they are right. I mean, Bitcoin is the safest of all the cryptos because it just continues to power ahead. But, I think what's happening now as well is he's trying to get ahead of the whole regulation curve and, trust curve. But it just seems so rushed. He's trying. And I think he's realizing, perhaps in a similar way to Sam, if that is to be the case, that Sam doesn't have a really good hold on things. Maybe CZ doesn't as well. Maybe he came out and said, hey, look, we can prove it all. Let's do this. And he's got a bunch of yes people that are working in high places that are making a lot of money through working in those high places at Binance going, oh, geez, well, actually, we so let's make our own rules for the audit and call it an audit. Well, we don't really have let's just put this out for now. Do you know what I mean? That's what it feels like.
And it's a bit suspicious that Justin Justin's son, Justin
Yeah.
Sun, the founder of Tron, withdrew over $100 million worth of funds and then deposited back to Binance. Like, see, look, we trust Binance. We're going to give them back $100 million. You just withdrew how much? Like,
Yeah.
a little bit suspicious. Just all these
I
little
mean,
things
look,
add up to a bigger picture.
yeah, if Binance goes down, if Binance goes down, we're going to get put back a few years in adoption, but maybe not. Like Craig said, Bitcoin maxes. And look, to be honest, for full disclosure, I don't think Binance is insolvent. It is probably a huge miscommunication. And like what you were saying, Craig, he's just got Twitter, got these little things in our pockets. Doesn't matter what your status, called a smartphone. You can,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, look at these
But
crazy tweets SBF has sent out. Yeah.
I'm not willing to go that far to say I don't think they're insolvent. I'm just going as far as saying that the way that they're managing things, because we were told that by FTX, we were told that by people here in Australia at FTX, that they were in fact lied to as well from the Bahamas. Coming back to what you said before, Rhys, about that Sam went silent. He went completely silent. He wouldn't even talk to his the people running his business in different parts of the world, and when he did, he lied to them. So. It's a really shady time right now, and it sucks because the trust isn't there, and Binance is trying to build that trust and failing dismally. And this whole audit thing, it's not an audit. We spoke about it in the last chat we did last week, where we said the easiest way, well, from my standpoint, to have these companies become trusted again, these exchanges especially, is to follow a very similar, very similar framework as what a publicly listed company would have to do, which is showing you balance sheets and doing complete, open, transparent audits, because it's publicly accessible information. That's where investors make their decisions based on. If you try and fudge those, you're in jail. And so too, the auditor takes responsibility to a certain extent to make sure that it is, fit and proper. The way they're going about it right now, just showing proof of reserves and making these rules that people can and can't see. And trust me, bro, I'm sick of hearing, oh, just trust us. Oh, he didn't say trust us. He said, ask around. It's like, that is trust me, bro. It's like, oh yeah, I'm just going to call up all your debtors that I don't even know exist and see, I'm just going to call everyone on the planet and go, does CZ owe you money? Does Binance owe you money? What contracts are on? How much money is going out? We don't get to see that. And that is the lack of transparency. If we follow a model similar to that is properly audited for publicly listed companies in just about every jurisdiction, right? Then we're going to have a place where we really can trust. Until that point comes, I mean, it's just pissing in the wind. Like, Binance going out and doing all this stuff has just muddied the water more than it's clarified things. And I would suggest that this Mazar mob that they've put in place to do an internal audit under their rules, they're probably going, oh, why did we say yes to this? Because it's tarnishing their name at the same time. I don't know. It's the thing is, I guess the bottom line to conclude on the Binance situation right now is that they've gone out there trying to provide trust and proof that they are all good. Now, they probably are all good, but they're not portraying that very well. They are bringing up more questions than they are actual answers. And it's because, the nerve endings are not connecting. They're all over the place. CZ contradicting himself, saying about honesty, setting rules around what honesty is. Well, truth is truth. I don't care about your truth. Truth is truth. The fact that I am talking right now in this room is a fact. That's a fact. Give me facts. Give me the absolute truth about what is going on. And it's very apparent that they can't. And that's not good for the market. But speaking of the market, as you can see, and you've been seeing on your chart for a while now, ladies and gentlemen, Bitcoin has had a pretty good last 48 hours, closing up 3.3% yesterday. Gentlemen, why did that happen?
Just to sum up the Binance thing,
Yeah,
I think
sorry.
from our standpoint, there's nothing we can really do until this blows over. I think I would encourage people to take their Bitcoin and stables off of the exchange and have them in a ledger and just leave the minimum amount on there. At the moment, the risk is just too large. I'd rather be safe with my funds on a ledger for the time being, and then I'm happy to put them back onto Binance when everything blows over. But yeah, I don't know if you've got anything to add there, Lou.
Look, I hope that the bullet, like we've just covered all the negative stuff. The bullish scenario in all this is if a lot of people put Binance under stress and they withdraw a huge amount of funds, which seems to be happening right now. And Binance copes with it, no problem. Withdrawals just kick over, and it blows over. And I think if that happens, which we all hope it does, it will maybe that will inspire some more confidence in the market as well.
Yeah,
which could be a good sign to the market as well.
Fair point. And with regard to taking money off exchange, I mean, one of the things that I put in the course and speak about quite frequently is your counterparty risk. So what Rhys has just described there is just good risk management. If you've got, say, $50,000 worth of crypto and you are margin trading as well, you're using margin. You don't need to have the whole 50,000 on there. You should be having for trading the amount that you require to have the margin that you need or to take the size positions that you need. Now, sure, if you've got, say, 3 or 4 positions running, which is unlikely if you trade our ways at the moment because we don't have a great deal of direction, the probability is that you're going to be able to have the amount of trades that you want and risk manage it to your 50,000, which is risking 500 per trade. So you don't need to have full exposure to any exchange. You do need to have some exposure to trade margin. Just manage what that exposure is and say, once you've made some profits, take that off, put that back onto your ledger and keep yourself safe in that way. We've been saying this from day dot. It doesn't change. It remains exactly the same. There will always be counterparty risk, and it doesn't just occur in crypto. That's one thing I also want to suggest is that I've seen these events occur on foreign exchange platforms as well. FXCM was one of them. I think another one was Atari back against the Euro Swiss franc depegging. So you can't feel more safe in, I mean, you can feel more safe in traditional markets, I suppose, because they do audits real, but you don't get the same amount of volatility in that space. And we like that volatility. So that's sort of to sum up that how to manage that. And we'll be doing more on counterparty risk coming up as well. So yeah, the market, it's up. Sweet. 3.3% we closed up. I've been talking about getting up through the old highs, which was set at 17,417. We're now trading at 17,818 as Bitcoin pushed through quite significantly that level. We've got another new higher low on the daily chart, which it's been a really good market move over the last 24 hours. What was it that made that move, gentlemen?
Look, I think it could be a number of reasons, but I really think it was the CPI data that came out overnight. The CPI or the inflation rate seems to have slowed and only increased by 0.1%. So the last year on year was what, 7.7%?
Yep.
Yeah, 7.7%. The consensus was 7.3. We came in at 7.1. So I think it does look like inflation is slowing, and the interest rate announcement, which is due for us tonight, I believe.
Let's have a look. I think it's actually tomorrow. Here it is, 6 a.m. tomorrow.
Yeah, it's tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow.
So that's December 15. Yeah, so that'll be 6 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
We have we've got FOMC economic projections, so they're basically just talking, and the rates decision. They're still looking to raise it another 0.5% after speaking earlier about reducing the pace.
I'll be very surprised if that happens.
Yeah, look, I got a sneaking suspicion this time of year, and keep in mind, this has got nothing to do with me reading lots of stuff and being an economist. I'm just pretty down with patterns and politics around patterns and times of year. The first hint was we are looking at decreasing the pace at which we're raising rates. Keep in mind, as we said before, 9%. Sorry, no, what is it? What was the inflation? 6 point something. We'll call it 7 just to do a round number. And we've got in the US, if you've got a mortgage as well, you started at maybe 1.1% or something like that. Now you're at, maybe 4.8%. So it's a big swing. You've got about a 10% reduction in your spending power with inflation and now interest rates rising. So a lot of people's money is being taken away at this time of year at Christmas. Good news is what politicians want. And with inflation figures now having, beaten expectations of the forecast, I believe that there is a high probability. Well, no, I won't say a high probability, a higher probability now with inflation having dropped significantly more than forecast, that tomorrow that we see maybe a 25 basis point rise as opposed to a 50 basis points. It's a big thing to say that, but that could go ahead like that. If it does do that, I think we're going to see our markets really have a very, very strong run. But again, that is just based on a theory. It is not based on fact. We'll know tomorrow at 6 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. But it's definitely helped the market out, hasn't it?
Wouldn't that be nice? Just a nice little Christmas gift. The government put us through hell in 2020 with COVID, again in 2021 with COVID, 2022 with interest rate increases. So here you go, guys. A 25% basis point increase to end the year.
And we see that as really good news. That's the great news.
Yeah, really good. We're going to give you 50, but we'll give you 25.
Yeah.
I think in live trading floor, I always look at the S&P 500, the SPX 500 and the dollar. And the past, let's just say all news aside, if we weren't following the news, the dollar, at least the DXY, which is the US dollar index, is in a solid downtrend. Some people will call that use the acronym double top on the daily there. The high did not take out the previous high, and it's just in a really nice downtrend. And then
on the daily it is. On the daily,
it is. Yeah,
it's broken its uptrend, but on the monthly, it's pretty much just a straight line though. I mean, it's had a massive run from its low point to its high point of 28%. I've done a fair bit of content on exactly that, so it's been covered quite extensively. But yeah, the daily right now is in a downtrend, and what we want to see is a stronger economy or stronger global economies, not just the US. Stronger global economies tend to see the US dollar decrease in value because it's a safe haven. Generally, when things go bad, people pile in the dollars because it's the world's currency still, right? So it'll be interesting to see if that continues. Of course, yesterday it did close down nearly 1%, which is quite a significant move. Well, it's not significant, but it is quite it's a solid move for the dollar index. But dollar index falling tends to mean that we'll see Bitcoin rising as a general metric of, as I said, economic health globally. So yeah, it's 12.5% is what we need to get to 20,000 by the end of the year. Or by the end of the year. Now, I'd love it by Christmas, which means that we've got 11 days to put on 12.5%. To be honest with you,
it's doable.
We need that interest rate decision to come out significantly lower to give us a really good run into Christmas. That's what we need. The problem is that when it comes to fiscal, these monetary meetings and whatnot, and the interest rate decisions, it's kind of like a cruise ship. They go for a while, and then they slow and they slow and they slow. They don't tend to go, okay, well, we're going to give you 50 basis points off this time. Oh, but next month we're going to raise it by 0.25. They don't tend to work in those ways. They don't take a step backwards and then move forward again. They tend to increase, and then slowly start to decrease. Then they might plateau for quite some time until we get back into a period where they start to decrease again. And in fact, the rising interest rates are typically a good thing. Sometimes they're used as a measure to slow what we're seeing now, inflation. But people that are stoked about lowering interest rates tend to forget that that's to stimulate the economy. That's what that is for. rising interest rates is not to stimulate the economy, it tends to slow the economy. So it's a seesaw that many people don't understand. Rising interest rates at this point are used to combat inflation, which is the spending of money. But I tell you what might have been a good idea. Maybe not lock us all down and print trillions of dollars. That might have helped inflation. I don't know. I'm not an economist.
When are the economists ever right though?
Yeah,
They
well,
won't.
That's another Warren Buffett line about economists.
Yeah.
That's why they're economists, because they never have money in the market. So so that's like the fallacy of the markets, right? Isn't it? Why does everyone listen to economists when they don't actually profit from the market and have skin in the game? Yet everyone does. Yet the actual traders,
it's the academics.
the academics. That's right. Yeah, that good old one of the markets.
But so look, we've got interest rates coming out tomorrow, 6 a.m. I'm calling for, as in I want it, a 25 basis point rate hike. Whether I get it or not, I don't know. But if we did get it, it would certainly, push us higher, I would suspect. If we get it on 50 basis points, I think we probably won't see too much change. If we get above, well, we can expect to wipe out what we put on yesterday. And that's pretty much where we are within the markets. Do you guys have any final thoughts, anything else to sort of add to this little chat?
I think I'm going to go for 25 basis points as well. That's what I'm expecting. But I think my final note would be that, coming back to the SBF thing, that a shout out to Tom Emmer, a congressman in the US, who said that crypto committed no crime. It was the shady guys that committed the crime. So anyone bashing crypto, bashing Bitcoin because of this whole SBF saga and now Binance and everything else that's happened this year, it wasn't Bitcoin that did it. It wasn't blockchain that did it. It was people using those as a tool to commit fraud. So I think that's a really important note to end with is, crypto committed no crime.
Yeah.
100%.
I agree.
100%.
Well then, gentlemen, let's wrap this one up. And thanks to all the listeners and viewers that do this. If you do like this, please do share it, subscribe, turn on your notifications. Any questions, just write it in the comments. We're more than happy to answer those. If you are listening to this in podcast, well, jump into our Discord group and ask us questions, because we're there all the time, and we'd be more than happy to help. Gentlemen, thank you very much. This is the last Traders Chat that I'll be on this year as I move into Christmas and enjoying a bit of a break. And to everybody out there, take it easy. Merry Christmas, and stay Safu, as the incredibly confused CZ might say. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you, mate.
Bye.
The Trader Cobb Crypto Show, talking business in blockchain.